views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of Bronxnet or the program underwriters.
Coming up, the world reacts to President Trump's alleged explicit comments about African nations and Haiti. A White House doctor in an hour-long briefing says the president's in excellent health, but many experts and media personalities question the accuracy of that report. Plus, what lays ahead for DACA and immigration reform in the wake of these comments? Will there be a compromise amongst lawmakers? That, plus a whole lot more, is coming up on this edition of Perspectives with yours truly, Daren Jaime.
What's on your mind?
Let 'em know.
What's on your mind? What's on your mind?
Let 'em know. Anything relevant to life, you bring it to the table. Whether you make a move solo or a movement with a stable. No fables, you speak on your decisions. Cause in the long run, it's your voice, your views, your vision. Keeping it real with many messages for you to know. This ain't radio, but DJ runs the show. Entertainment, he rocks it. Politics, he locks it. The host with the most would handle any topic. Don't forget to share your perspective with shines of light. Cause it might make a difference in someone else's life.
Make a difference.
What's your perspective?
Express what's in your heart and your mind. Share your perspective.
What's your perspective?
Hey, hello everyone, welcome to another edition of Perspectives, and continue to wish you a happy new year. Of course, we invite you to stay connected to us here on Perspectives. How do you do that? Well, you can stay connected to us on Facebook and Twitter, and then you can also check me out on my professional page, Daren C. Jaime on Facebook. You can find out latest perspectives and what's coming up and what you'd like to see. Listen, we're talking politics, and everybody knows the conversation that's being had now in the days following a report that President Donald Trump disparaged countries like Haiti and African countries using explicit S-hole comments, talking about countries in an Oval Office meeting with lawmakers. The White House continues to deny that the president even used such words. Now, in the face of all this, world leaders are continuing to slam the president for his comments, including South Africa, who's issued an official diplomatic protest to the United States last week over what's according to its foreign ministry. And now, similar to what we've seen the last year, the president is now being labeled as a racist, and last year, many of the focuses have now shifted from the policy of the president to the personal and moral standing of the commander-in-chief. Joining us now to discuss this and many other topics coming out of Washington are my two good friends. Number one, attorney, political contributor, and also adjunct professor at BMCC, JC Polanco, and Bronxnet political commentator and analyst Lee Bynes. And good to have you squaring up again one more time.
Good to be back.
Good to be back. Happy New Year, Darren.
Good to have you New Year to you, man.
Thank you,
Listen, so let's talk about this here. First of all, the president makes these comments, and now the debate as to whether or not he even made the comments. The fact that we're debating this, we know wholeheartedly, but even more importantly, what does this do for domestic relations, and then also what does it do for the president's just character?
Look, I guess we were in agreement. We don't know which one's supposed to tell it first, because basically the topic that we're talking about with regards to the honesty, basically this is a core problem here. I would say that it's even more important than the fact of what he said. Everybody uses salty language at various times. Everybody crossed the line with regards to being insensitive to the needs of others. But this whole the concept of the lying. Dick Durbin, senator out of Illinois, came to the fore and said, look, this is what I heard, this is what the president said, and then essentially others coming out of that same meeting are claiming that they never heard anything. Now, considering the president literally has zero credibility on any issue that he's touched whatsoever, I think the public, after a year of him being in office, have concluded that the man has a very difficult time dealing with the truth in any capacity whatsoever. And so when the individuals came out and tried to give the president cover, oh, well, I didn't hear him say that. Oh, he didn't use those specific words. Dick Durbin is supposedly known for mischaracterizing things. The public is weighing this out. I'm not just talking about the domestic audience. The international audience is looking at this and this behavior. So go ahead, JC. Maybe you can add something that I missed.
I think when Lindsey Graham called Tim Scott, senator out of South Carolina, and tells him this is what happened, and this is what I said, and then appears before the media and tells the world, I know what I said and I know what I heard and it was disgusting, I think it's clear that those statements were said. We have to just be honest with each other. And shame on those that can't remember a conversation they had with the chief, the commander-in-chief, just 2 minutes before. I just forgot what he said. It's impossible to believe. Quite frankly, I think this president, unfortunately, has a history of making these types of statements, from saying that the Haitians that are here all have AIDS, the Nigerians should go back to their huts, will go back to their huts in Africa. I mean, you have a guy who is completely ignorant to the issues of race and ethnicity in the United States, and I think speaks like an Archie Bunker who has had way too much to drink on a bar somewhere out in Queens. And unfortunately, this is the president. But again, this is who he ran as. I mean, this is not surprising. And this is who the people voted for. This is who won the election. So when a president is out there and he wants to ban Muslims and say we have to put a ban on Muslims coming into the United States, when he says that Judge Curio can't be fair because he's Mexican, right? When he makes the claim that the Gold Star family's wife wasn't able to talk maybe because of her religion, when he has a history of this type of behavior, and then you tell me that he called Haiti, the 54 countries of Africa, and then the continent of Africa, S-holes, I think it's not that far of a stretch.
Right. So give me this here. Given the fact that these comments have been made, what does this do now? Because you got certain people who say, oh, we didn't hear it, we don't know anything. What does this do for the GOP? Considering that, once again, something else has come out. You've got a president who's from the GOP now making these statements. What does this do for the party with the latest statements that have come out?
I would say that it gives the party a black eye. It gives them something to overcome moving forward in these next elections.
You'd like
As I
that to be the
mentioned,
case.
as
That to be the case.
Well,
it wasn't the case when he ran. I mean, I was here, and so were you, and we saw a president who was completely disrespectful to almost every single group in the country, and he won big in the Electoral College, and we kept the Senate and we kept the House of Representatives. So you're playing with logic now. Now you're saying because he said these things and we find it to be insulting in New York, that the rest of the country is going to agree with us. I got news for you. They don't.
Well,
it doesn't matter to them.
Because he's very, very adept at dog whistle politics. He's speaking to a specific group of people. When I said that he's going to give the Republicans or the GOP something to overcome, it's the being branded as the party of racists, being branded as the party that will accept and embrace white supremacists. After the Charlotte event, and the president actually came out and said that Charlottesville event, he came out and actually said that there were good people on both sides. I think the people, a lot of the folks that voted for the president initially, I'm not sure that they knew what they were getting into, and I'm sure that a lot of folks are suffering buyer's remorse. Now, whether they will actually come out and state it that or not, I don't know. But I can say with a high degree of certainty that the majority of the country, and I'm not talking about the numbers in terms of electoral college votes and things like that. I'm talking about a plurality of the nation is pretty much fed up with Donald Trump. And not only just the nation, but the world. Now, the international community does not have a vote in our elections. But I'm certain there's enough Democrats, progressives, libertarians, and Green Party members who will coalesce in an effort or present a resistance against moving forward with another 4 years of this man.
I just don't see it. Right now, I just don't see it. I think that we in New York and in California and in parts of Florida, in Boston, right, we have this very different view of the world. We do, just because we are interacting with so many different groups of people. One of the reasons why I couldn't support the president's campaign, and even now I just look with disgust, is that these are my neighbors he's attacking. These are my people. These are my students. These are people that we work with and see daily. We feel insulted for them a lot of the times. And when he calls Haiti an S-hole, and he doesn't understand the history of Haiti, he doesn't understand the people of Haiti, he doesn't understand how the people of my parents' country, the Dominican Republic, needed Haitians in order to get rid of slavery in 1844. I think these things are important. So when I look at a guy like Trump, who knows very little about history, especially the history of the world, I see that we are very different than these people around the country who like that kind of talk. or they have no idea what it's like to work with Haitians or what it's like to have undocumented people working with you and knowing them as neighbors and having a one-to-one. One of the issues that I have, and I know that a lot of my friends are watching or will see this eventually, is I take a lot of issue with President Trump's behavior towards our communities and our people of color and the countries of where our friends and families and neighbors are from. And I say to them, you know, if I were an Italian guy, I wouldn't be able to support this guy. If I were an Irish guy, I couldn't support him. If I were a white guy, I just couldn't support him. And then I tell him this, look, if the president of the United States were Hispanic like me, Dominican, let's make it even more of a microethnic issue, and he spoke this way of Italians and Germans and Irish and French people, I couldn't support him because I work with these people. I'd be nowhere if it wasn't for Irish nuns and Irish priests and my Irish teachers. I couldn't support a guy who would speak this way of Irish people. I couldn't support a guy who, can you imagine my Italian friends? All the Italian people I know, if I had a Hispanic president in office that was trashing Italian people the way this man trashes people of Africa and of Haiti and El Salvador, I just couldn't support him. So I look at so many of them and I'm like, do you not see what's going on here? This is an attack against a whole group of people. And we expect there to be some sort of reciprocity or some sort of understanding. So I hope that somehow something clicks soon because we're gonna lose a lot of people in my party.
Let me take a quick break, come back and continue the conversation. The question is, moving forward in other elections, will this have an effect on states? And what does the president's recent comments do with DACA? We'll talk about that when we return.
I got a creak in my neck, limp in my step, cramping in my muscles every time I try to flex. But if you throw me around, I'll throw you some more.
Maybe you can make retirement happen. After all, you made this vacation happen.
Double points with every purchase?
Cleverly merging promotions.
I love it.
Cross-referencing travel sites. And booking all your flights with those...
Vouchers. I got us bumped.
They were like, oh. But now they're like... Aloha. You aced this vacation. Now get the tips you need to get on track at aceyourretirement.org.
Patriotism. It inspires passionate debate. It's worn like a badge of honor with good reason, because it means love and devotion for one's country. But what really makes up this country of ours? It's the people. To love America is to love all Americans. This year, patriotism shouldn't just be about pride of country. It should be about love. Love beyond age, sexuality, disability, race, religion, and other labels. Because love has no labels.
Back here on Perspectives, our guests in studio, two of my very good friends, Lee Bynes and JC Polanco, chopping it up literally over the president's comments and the effect that it's actually having. Before the break, we talked a little bit about, the kind of effect that it would have. I want to first of all go to the comments that were made by that really led to this leaking out, which came from Senator Dick Durbin, who actually took to Twitter to speak about the president's comments. We're going to take a look at that quote right there. But this is what Senator Durbin says. He says, "I cannot believe that in the history of the White House, in that Oval Office, any president has ever spoken the words I personally heard our president speak yesterday." And that's what Senator Durbin told reporters. That's a July 13th interview. And JC is shaking his head.
I mean, Senator Durbin has to be kidding. Are you kidding? Do you know how many times the N-word has been dropped in that office? Do you know how many times Andrew Jackson sat there as he planned the Trail of Tears, the way he spoke about Native Americans? You got to give me a break if you think that's the worst kind of language that's come out of that White House.
Since he's been there. Since he's been around.
No, I'm sure. Can you put that, since he's been there, it's in the history of the White House.
Oh, okay, he just said the history.
You have out of your mind.
Go
There's
back
no
and
way.
clarify.
Come on, look, I don't like the president's comments. I think they're racist. I think that a lot of the things he does are racist, and I'll never subscribe or support any of them. But to think that this is the worst language used in the White House, when we had internments of Japanese and the persecution of African Americans and Native Americans, there's no way. When Operation Wetback took place under President Eisenhower, you think this language is even close to the kind of language that was being said in the White House when they deported over 250,000 Mexican Americans, many of them citizens, believe it or not? There's no way. Look, I don't like this language. I think it's awful. I think it's going to hurt a lot of things. But to compare it to the worst that's ever been said in the White House.
But you know, it's been you know, years ago there was a brand of cigarettes came out called "We've Come a Long Way, Baby." That was the slogan. And from the Dick Durbin perspective, we've come a long way since those times, or so we thought. And the fact that the president could use such language so cavalierly in a public space where other people could come out and repeat what he said, to me speaks that the man is tone deaf. And again, but on the other hand, it could have been a calculated risk that he took, because a lot of reporting came out that the president was actually pleased with what was going on. He knew that he had fed his base some serious red meat. And the calculation is that before he even went out and started making the denials, he wanted to see how that was playing out in the countryside. And to be absolutely honest, and that's one of the reasons why I stated earlier that that his base would probably stick with him, is because, and that's one of the reasons why he will not be successful much longer, because of the fact that the people, the GOP or the Republican Party is going to be tainted with this. And they don't want to have to run as a party.
This is a man who won the presidency after in December 2015 announcing that he wants a ban on Muslims coming into the United States. This is a guy who trashed Mexicans as being murderers and rapists, and I'm sure some are good people. This is a guy who has a history of this stuff. So how could you possibly think that this is going to somehow be a speed bump? This is not even close to proposing a Muslim ban. This is him calling certain countries S-hole. Do you know how terribly racist that is? No matter how much you and I think it's racist, it won't affect his electoral college outcome one bit. And I'm looking at Facebook and I'm looking at Twitter, and do you know what the logic is? The logic is he says what we're thinking. Oh, you like those countries so much? When was the last time you went there on vacation? You want to go live in those countries? See, this is the logic by a lot of his supporters. The fact that, hey, those countries are in fact terrible, and they apply logic of those countries being so bad that people are fleeing and risking their lives to come here, as the president just saying how it is.
So
and those people vote for him.
Let me translate this into how does this play out in seats. We had a conversation a little bit earlier about how many seats are up for grabs, how many seats will be lost or potentially lost if the president continues on this trajectory. Are seats lost because on the GOP side because the president continues on this trajectory, or are we going to see more of the same?
I'm thinking that there will be seats lost, despite what JC mentioned earlier. If you notice, there's been an escalation, and a continuous escalation without any kind of stoppage whatsoever of people coming out and resisting this president. The day after his inauguration, they had 500,000 people show up, women specifically, to show up and protest against the president. That protest did not just stay domestically. That protest was carried around the world, similar to the remarks that he's being held accountable for right now. That wasn't just a domestic issue. Around the world, people are talking about this issue. And I would say that with the large number of Republicans who have already declared that they're not going to run for office again, that's going to leave a tremendous opening for Democrats who plan to contest those spots. Another thing I would say is that since the president has been in office, most of the special primaries or the special elections that have been held since then, in fact, one was held last night in Wisconsin. Democrat won. The Democrat won in a heavily Republican state, and in a district that was, for the most part, that Trump carried in large measure over Hillary Clinton. So if you take what's we've been seeing gradually, November of this year is going to be, in my estimation, a sea change. It's going to be a bloodbath.
Prediction.
I predicted so much, and I've lost every time here. This is just bad luck. I think that there's so many more Democrats in red states, especially in the U.S. Senate, that are facing hard re-elections. When you look at McCaskill and so many others. Tester, Montana.
Exactly.
So you have, it's a tough fight for Democrats to be able to win. I think we're going to lose some seats, which is the natural thing to happen during midterm elections. When you look at President Obama during his time period, you guys lost over 12 governors, and you did lose over almost 1,100 state legislative seats across the country. So this is a natural event for there to be a loss of seats of the party that's in control of the White House. I do think that if the Democrats are really engaged, like we saw in Westchester and we saw in Nassau County, if they're engaged in the suburbs of Virginia and the suburbs of Pennsylvania, I think you're going to see them pick up some seats. I don't know if they're going to be able to pick up enough seats to make up a majority. And the reason for that is...
And you're talking about a majority in the House.
In the House or the Senate. And the reason for that is the stock market is doing so well. You know, Van Jones had a segment on CNN where he actually went out to voters in white middle America that voted for President Obama twice and voted for President Trump this time. And when he sat down at their kitchen tables to have a conversation with them as to why they switched to Trump, it doesn't make any sense, they said they voted with their pocket this time. And I think a lot of people are going to vote with their pockets, and their pensions are doing well, their 401ks are doing well, the Dow hit 26,000. So people, you'd be surprised how fast they forget about him calling these countries S-holes when their pensions and 401ks are doing phenomenally well.
But you know what, when you drill down on the numbers that you're talking about right now with regards to the stock market, I think it's important that people understand that 80% of the stock is owned by 20% of the country. That means the vast majority of Americans are not participating in 401ks. They do not have a strong social, economic safety net. And with all of the cuts that are coming down the line with regard that the Republicans are trying to pass through, that's going to affect the average American. Like I say, it's a hell of a thing. Yeah, the stock market is raging off the boat, but it's not. But a large number of Americans are not taking part in that.
Okay, the referee's telling me I gotta take a break. Hold on a second. I'll be right back. Take a quick break. Be back with more show right after this.
Welcome, everybody. We are open. I'm the Dr. Bob Lee from 107.5 WBLS. You can catch me on there each and every night right after the Quiet Storm. You can catch me right here on Open, 10 o'clock, 5 o'clock, and 10 o'clock. Let's just call it on the 10s and then just keep it tuned. And we got you covered like a blanket, okay? I'm out in the community and we're all over the place because we are now open.
And we are back. Thanks for joining us. JC, before the break, you were just getting ready to say something.
I think that we have to also remember that there are a lot of people that have mutual funds and pensions and 401ks. Lots of voters have those things. And when even if they don't have individual stocks in the market and they're not sitting in front of their computers trading, the economy is getting a benefit from this Trump bounce. We really can't explain it other than traders on Wall Street and decision makers appreciate less regulation and these tax cuts. By the way, these tax cuts are going to impact a lot of wealthy suburbans in New York that deduct more than $10,000 in their property taxes from their federal tax withholdings. This time around, however, what we see is that 85% of the country is going to get some tax benefit from the recent tax cut, whether it be $1,000 or more. And to make matters even worse for the people that are opposing the president and are ready to gear up in 2018, a lot of the companies are taking their tax cut advantage and redistributing that tax cut to their employees in the form of bonuses. JetBlue did it. Walmart's doing it. A lot of other companies are doing it. This is impacting. You know what? Honestly, this is the one thing that I think is going to hurt the Democrats in 2018. These things that we don't really pay attention to because the president is just so scandalous with his words.
I think when people do find out, when the numbers start to shake out, and we're talking about Walmart, I read the other day they're raising their minimum wage to $11. And I'm thinking to myself, well, let's go out and buy that Mercedes right away. You see, because not when you have the country in a mood or a mode of $15 an hour. And so for Walmart to generously offer their employees a little bit extra health care or a little bit, a few extra pennies per hour is not going to offset the fact that any tax relief that they receive, I'm talking about the regular guy receive, will be eaten up by the rise in health care because of the fact that they got rid of the minimum, the individual mandate, right. And now they're going, for businesses 50 or more employees, they're going to start cutting some slack for them. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, when you do not have the mandate in place in order to bring everybody into the process to lower the prices, then you're going to definitely 100% see healthcare prices rise.
You got another 2 minutes left, JC. What should we be looking forward to in coming months?
I think the Bronxites should continue to register to vote, and I think they should continue participating in the process. I think they should be engaged. I think a lot of good things are happening in the Bronx, and I really do. I think that this is a good time for Bronxites that are watching, that if they haven't registered, to go to the Board of Elections and register to vote. There's a governor's race coming up in 2018 this November. I would love to see the Bronx come out in numbers that we've never seen before. And I think that's important for us in the Bronx so that we can show not only the state but the country that we're a force to be reckoned with. But more importantly, I wish that Bronxites were more independent voters. I really wish that they just didn't put all their eggs in one basket after each election cycle. The reason I say that is if a candidate to be the chief executive of New York feels that he has to compete in New York, in the Bronx, to get our votes, we're gonna see them come to us. They're gonna talk to us about schools and what they're gonna do about our roads, and they're gonna have to deliver us. We don't vote for them, as opposed to what we have now, where we're almost always in their back pockets. I want New Yorkers in the Bronx, especially, to start splitting their ticket.
All right, JC, I gotta get the last. He gets the last word. Unfortunately, we gotta get out of here.
Okay.
So, but you know, you can catch us here on Bronxnet. We'll be you got open. You can check us out there. Of course, you'll be able to catch more episodes of Perspectives. Got to wrap up. Daren Jaime saying, take care. God bless. Keep us wide open right here on Perspectives.
Anything relevant to life, you bring it to the table. Whether you make a move solo or a movement with a stable. No fables, you speak on your decisions. Cause in the long run, it's your voice, your views, your vision. Keeping it real with many messages for you to know. This ain't radio, but DJ runs the show. Entertainment, he rocks it. Politics, he locks it. The host with the most would handle any topic. Don't forget to share your perspective with shines of light. Cause it might make a difference in someone else's life. What's your perspective?